Hello, and welcome back to the 2021 At Home series. My name is Erin Schaefer, and I am the treasurer of AAMFT's Board of Directors. I hope that over the last year, you have taken advantage of the opportunities provided by AAMFT to connect virtually with colleagues. Participating in events like the conference, virtual hangouts, leadership symposium, and other webinar series made me feel connected and plugged into the field, which was especially valuable during an isolating time that also required quick adaptations to changing regulations and new technology. I encourage you to stay plugged in to your professional home too. There are many ways to get involved, stay connected, and contribute to the advancement of the profession. You can join the family team. As AAMFT's grassroots advocacy network, it is free to join and helps you stay up to date with all U.S. MFT advocacy efforts at the state and federal level. It only takes a few minutes at a time to add your voice to the support of important initiatives like MFTs and Medicare, which would significantly increase the number of mental health providers in rural and underserved communities. AAMFT also offers interest networks for members to connect with MFTs in their topical focus or geographic location. Opportunities abound for volunteer involvement. So if you are looking for a way to contribute your talents to a specialized group or want to see a calendar of upcoming events, the network directory is found at aamft.org/engage. In line with our topic today, research-minded MFTs will be interested to know that our newest topical interest network is Intervention Research in Systemic Family Therapy. In August, they will hold a one-day virtual conference for which abstract submission is currently open. Visit aamft.org/research if you are interested in learning more about the event or joining this community of research-oriented MFTs. If you are interested in receiving continuing education credits for this session, please consult the reminder email you received this morning to find information on completing your session evaluation and downloading your CE certificate, as well as the check-in code, which will also be posted in the chat. Today's session is being sponsored by CPH & Associates. As the endorsed professional liability insurance provider for AAMFT members, CPH & Associates is proud to sponsor the AAMFT At Home series. CPH provides portable occurrence form coverage that protects you throughout your professional career. During this time of evolving practices, CPH is pleased to assure you that their policy covers telehealth services, as long as such services are permitted under your state's law. A policy with CPH provides peace of mind so you can focus on your career. Get policy highlights and an instant quote online with www.cphins.com. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to today's presenter, Dr. Linna Wang. Dr. Linna Wang is a core faculty of Couple and Family Therapy program of Alliant International University. In the past decade, she has obtained over $3 million in grants to fund in areas of public health, mental health, workforce enhancement, such as MFT educational stipends for MFT graduate students, workforce pipeline projects, and leadership and management trainings to mental health managers. Welcome, Dr. Wang.
Hi, thank you, Erin, for the introduction. And here is my presentation, just a disclaimer. This presentation was a workshop, several-hour workshop, and provided to the San Diego local area mental health organization managers. And it focused more on service grants, but the process and the format of writing grants, either for a research grant or service grants, are very similar. So here I'm just talking about the process. And here's the overview of the presentation. We're going to talk about the values and grant writing and funding sources and how to write the application. And all this is organized by the grant lifecycle. So at the end, I'm going to share some tips and experiences with you. Okay. So first of all, what is grant? When you get loan, get money, you have to pay back that loan with interest. When you get money, you don't have to pay back. That's grant. An example is the Paycheck Protection Program by federal government during the COVID. And the business owners can apply, get the loan with the interest they have to pay back. But if they meet certain requirement, the government would forgive that loan and they don't have to pay back, and that loan becomes a grant. So that's an example to differentiate that. What is the value of grant and grant writing? Of course, grant comes with money. That's a great value. And yet there are other values associated with grant, which is a great public recognition. And this by your organization and your work is recognized by an external body that is willing to give you money to support you. And so, and also once you start to get a grant and this public recognition that comes with the money as well, will pave the way for future grant and make it easier to get grant. What does grant do and don't? Okay, grant issuer give you money basically to commission you to do a project. This project can be a research project or can be an art project or a service project. So it's a very specific project that they give you money for. So that also the issuer, grant issuer, or you may have certain ideas in the project, and the grant issuer recognize that and like that idea or project, and they give you money to help fund the grant. And I stress help. And when we talk about the budget, we're going to talk about more about that. And grant issuers often use money to provide public a service, okay? And government oftentimes used grant to stimulate economy. A great example is right now in COVID, and government issue a lot of grants. And during the Great Depression, government issued grant to build highways and national parks to stimulate economy. What grants don't do is they don't rescue a failing organization. If you're just losing money, your organization is dying, so I need a grant to get me going. Usually they don't do that, okay? And most time they don't just, a grant is not intended just to pay the regular bills of your operation. They don't do that. Okay, they usually come with a very specific project to do. So, oops. Grant issuer. Okay, who would grant issue grants? And many bodies. Okay. Foundations, okay, non-for-profit foundations. Here I give you some examples like Gates Foundation, Sloan Foundation, and those are national foundations, and they're local, at local level, there are foundations. Okay, there's a local same-minded people pull money together and organize a foundation and select certain projects they fund, such as the San Diego Foundation. NGOs and non-governmental organizations, and example is United Way is a great NGO to give mental health grants. And operations. So a lot of almost all the major operations, they are for-profit, but they organize a foundation associated with that organization. So the foundation of that organization becomes the non-for-profit branch for that corporate, and they issue money for, to the public. For example, in San Diego area, we have a Qualcomm, a major technology company. They have a foundation and they issue grants. And individual and wealthy families, individuals, they would take out some money from family money and establish trusts and charities, and such as Murdoch Trust, okay, big grant, issue grants. Government is a major body of each source of grant. And government issue money from federal, state, county level. And so you can search for that, okay, thank internet for that. So why do we know who are the grant issuers? Now, they are grant issuer, some are big, some are small, and the size oftentimes dictates how they issue grants and how they evaluate grant applications. And so we need to know them. Even though they may have different way of process and grants, but the information they ask is very similar, okay, more or less. So when we talk about a government, okay, government issue, they use public money, taxpayers' money. So they are very transparent and very strict in their evaluation process, and they have a peer review process. While small foundations or trusts, they may not have a particular manpower to process, and they may not even have the particular specific knowledge about the projects. So they may or may not follow a certain format. So you need to know that smaller foundations and their process may be slightly different. Mid-sized to large-size foundations or NGOs, they also have a pretty strict, they have their own format, they have a pretty strict evaluation process. So before you write a grant, you need to know about the grant issuer. So tip number one, and we're not going to do some activities here, but try to look into your local area, okay, and identify some funding sources. And they usually publish in who and what organizations, whom they funded on what project. So by checking, you will know what kind of projects are more likely to be funded and through certain foundations. Okay. Also, there are they make announcement, foundations and organizations, and they make announcement. They have, and like in San Diego County, their ByNet is an announcement website and connection that all San Diego County contracts and the grants are announced there. So a lot of organizations just subscribe there. So these are activities we're not going to do. Okay, let's talk about the grant life cycle. Roughly speaking, 3 phases. And the first phase is a pre-award phase. During this phase, grantors, okay, grant issuers, and would create funding opportunities. And during this phase, we, the people who look for grants, would apply. Okay, that's a major part of our grant writing process, grant writing effort here. And award phase is a grantors, grant issuers would evaluate the applications and make the decisions and make an award decision and announcement. And a post-award is those who got award funded would implement the project as you spelled out in your proposal, and you also you do evaluation, provide a report, and at the end of the project, you close out. So most of our work, grant writing, is a pre-award phase. During this time, we write our application, and there is a difference in there are solicited application, meaning that the grant issuer issue a request for a proposal or RFP. And okay, then you write to that RFP. There are also non-solicited application, we call it letter proposal or cold call, so to speak, to the small organizations. And let's cover that first. The usually a small organization, they have money, they may not issue it, and they issue RFP. And so you just write a letter proposal, a small proposal to them, and let them decide if they like it. If they like it, they may give you money. Okay, so this letter proposal is very small proposal, and for small foundations or charity organizations. And so it's short, 3 to 5 pages. Okay. So therefore, you really need to use this very limited space to make your point. Okay, and the small organizations, they may not have this specialized knowledge and or manpower to process your to evaluate, do a formal evaluation. So your writing has to use the simplest language and to the point. Okay, and however, the information carried in these small applications is very similar to the common application, the large application format. Okay, so before you write, it's always a good idea to check their funding history to see if they've funded a similar project like yours in the past. If they don't, okay, you know your chance is not high. Okay, and also even though they may not have a required format, always call ahead, call them. Okay, they say, do you have a very specific a format requirement? If they do, follow it. Okay, and because it's small and you may have quite a few organizations out there, it is very tempting to write a generic proposal and send to everybody. Don't do that, and tailor and to the particular organization that you have. Okay, and you have to what you are proposing has to match the mission of that organization, funding organization. So a letter proposal, in that short space, you need to cover all this content. You need to, first you need to have a need statement, then you have a problem statement. Okay, what is the need in the community? What specific problem you are talking about? And the proposal statement is how you solve this problem. And then you say, with the funding, what kind of goals you're going to set, and what are the objectives linked to the goals. So we're going to specifically talk about this. When you talk about need, okay, you want to sound, sorry to say that, to gloom and doom and drama and trauma. See, there's a huge need here. Okay, and then maybe only a few sentences, 2-3 sentences. Then you identify the problem. The problem has to be termed in a solvable manner. So who in the community are impacted by the whatever gap you may identify? Okay, then you say, here's my proposal. You tell the funder, I need your money to provide or create or expand the services for how many people. So it is very tangible, very measurable. Then you create goals, and the goal has to generate hope, because you are proposing a way to solve the problem, which should lead to hope. And the goal is for hope, for promise, and for the future result. And then the objectives is steps you can do to reach those goals. Okay, the benchmarks, and use your SMART goal setting format and set up benchmarks. So X number of people will be reached by however many days, okay, provided by whatever kind of services, okay. So then you have activities specifically say what exactly your proposed project will do for this project. Looks like I'm frozen. All right. Then also you need to have start and ending date from whichever day and whichever day to year, and also tied to the funding. Okay, so you may say I start from May 1, but your money may not be coming till July. Then say, and however many weeks and after we got funded, we're going to start activity number 1 that you mentioned before. You also need to let them know who you are. So you need to describe you. So you introduce your organization, pretty much give a visual tour. You say we were established however many years ago, and we own whichever building. We have however many employees and our volunteers. We serve whatever kind of population. We contribute to the community in whichever way. Okay, and you, because you are embedded in your community, you must have community partners. Okay, you must have community partners, and grant issuers do not want to give a grant to a lone wolf. Okay, who are the community partners? In what manner they may help you in this project? Okay, then you talk about specific your project staff and how many specific for this project, how many of them, okay, who they are, what kind of credential, what kind of experience, okay, and then you're going to say how you are going to evaluate this project. Okay, this is accountability. So how you're going to monitor the project, how do you collect data, and when you're going to collect data, and how to evaluate the data, and how to feed back the result of evaluation into your project. Okay, and then finance, you're going to talk about your financial situation of your organization. You want to demonstrate that you are well funded. You're not a bare bone organization. Okay, so, and then you invite the grant issuer to invest in you. Okay, so you may urgently seek your we urgently seek your financial support with your X dollar amount of money. We can support and deal with this particular population and prevent further violence on the street and blah, blah. Give a very specific statement. Then sign it with your executive director should sign it, not you. Okay. And then you need to provide attachment. Okay, so attachments are very important to support your proposal. So you need to show the proof of your non-for-profit status, and in your list of board directors, and also support letters from your community partners. And those things, okay, those are boilerplates. Okay, boilerplates you need to create ahead of time. So you need to do your homework before you even write grant proposal. Is, for example, the proof of your organization's non-for-profit status and organizational charge in the board of directors. Those are documents that for every grant you will need it. And you prepare it ahead of time. Okay, and just and if your organization has a grant office, they should help you with that to create these boilerplates. So you just off the shelf and grab it and put it together. A practice, okay, look into your local areas to identify the funding sources and look at their area and look at their history of funding and start writing small. There's no time constraint, so practice writing small proposals. Now, solicited proposals, those tend to for the bigger organizations, medium side or large side organizations and from our government proposal grants. So usually those are organizations, they don't accept just letter proposals. They don't even look at it. So when they have money, usually it's from their budget, and they organize the money for the purpose. Usually is associated with law, legislature, and certain money designated for what project. Then they prepare a request for proposal, RFP, and they issue that. And so this is, they come, and these RFPs comes with a very specific format requirement. Okay, and they also usually have a pretty strict evaluation process, and oftentimes is a peer review process. Okay, so for those grants, and solicited proposals is a full common proposal. Okay, so again, it's go back to the life cycle, and this is a time that we're talking about the pre-phase. On pre-award phase, these government or big organizations create a funding source, and we apply. Okay, so we apply. When we apply, and what grant issuers do, they issue RFP. They also screen applications, who can apply. Usually in RFP, they would identify to say who can apply. Sometimes they say only non-for-profit organizations. They will not issue to individuals, and some will say for-profit organization may apply. Okay, so the RFP would have all that information. So what we do during this phase, okay, first we get this RFP and we look for it. We usually, you get this, when you watch your state legislature, when you know certain funding would come down the pipeline, you watch for that. And when that happens, you read your RFP very carefully, because almost every single piece of information you need for requirement for this proposal is in RFP. So you read it very carefully. Then you register to apply. Okay, and and then you complete your application. And usually, when you read how to register to apply, usually the grant issuers would have a pre-application conference. So, and it's in the RFP, the time and the date, and you apply to attend that conference. And by attending the conference, you register. Okay, and they also see, by looking at these attendees, they are screening. So if you are not qualified, they would inform you. And then you read, before you attend a pre-application conference, you read your RFP very carefully, and usually it has all the information you need. But if you have any questions, the pre-application conference is the place to raise your questions. And if you have time, you submit your questions in writing before the conference. You can also submit during the conference. And after the conference, they are going to issue and publish their Q&A. Okay. And also, this is before you write, you analyze your capacity, your organization capacity, to see if you meet this requirement. If you technically can do it. Okay, some grants may be attractive, and if you just look at the money, but their condition may be so stingy, you may not, the amount of money may not help you to reach the goals that grant issuer set up for you. For example, a few years ago, an organization issued a grant about 5 million. But if you look at the condition, is the money is only to set up the, a service structure, and after that, and then you are supposed to get more funding to sustain this organization, and to sustain the organization is a whole lot more money than the setup. Okay, so it's not that when you look at the specific money and the requirement, and then that grant would not look very attractive. So there are not a whole lot of people applying to that RFP. So this is an activity I would organize during the training, give them a RFP for them to read, to identify. This is a list of questions that you, when you get RFP, you should look for. Okay, who is the issuer? What are the what's the purpose of the grant? What are the deadlines, and so on and so forth. So these are the questions you should have when you read your RFP. Okay, then you start writing your application. Okay, when you start writing your application, you should have look at the RFP requirement, and you develop your ideas. Your ideas must be within the RFP requirement. Okay, you may have a wonderful idea, but it's so different from RFP, then they will not even look at it. Okay, there's a certain level of bureaucracy in it, and this is what we want. This is you give to us, and you are not going to get out. Okay, so be very careful reading their requirement, and this is time you do your research. Okay, you need to identify the need in the community and what kind of problems specifically you are going to address, and how your project, your ideas will address those needs and the problems, and how much it's going to cost, and how can the funder help you. Okay, so conduct a research. This and then you write your proposal. You write your proposal exactly with the format specific to RFP. Okay, I cannot stress more that you have to follow the format. When they say, and in whatever format, follow that. It may not be the same flow like you like to write, but follow that. Okay, because when they evaluate your proposal, they have certain templates to go by. Okay, you out of the template, and you may confuse your grant evaluators. Okay, so usually this is a common grant application format. You have a cover letter, and you write about who you are, the history, and your organization's history and accomplishment, your current operation, and then community partners, and the problem, and object, and what you do, how your strategies to solve the problem, timeline, who is going to benefit, who are the people in your project, how do you evaluate, come up with a budget, and also boilerplates. Okay, so first of all, the cover letter or executive summary. Basically, it's just one page. This is the one page when during the evaluation, the first stage of the evaluation, this is what they look at. So it's a one-page summary of your proposal. Okay, who your organization is, what your proposed project are, not in detail, only one page. Okay, this is the screening process. They look at it. Okay, so then in the body of your application, you talk about the history of your organization. Okay, and you want to really impress your grant, the funding source. So what you do, what kind of accomplishment you have achieved, and what you want to show you have a longevity, you have experience, and you have a community connection. Okay, and don't assume, even though your organization may be well known in your area, and don't assume everybody knows you. So really spell it out. And about funding, okay, even if your organization has lost some funding, which happens, and you want to show stability, okay, and don't hide it. You can disclose the information, but you want to show your organization is sound, financially sound. Okay, then you can talk about your highlight and what you want you're doing. You brag about your great contributions to your community and society. Okay, and so the whole point is you want to show your funder that we have the expertise and we have strengths to start and finish the project. Then you want to talk about who you serve, okay, and also how the population you serve inform your project. Okay, this is two-way traffic. Okay, so you want to give the population information. Let's see, if you serve a homeless population, then you want to provide the research about the whole demographic of the population. Okay, and for example, do the most recent need analysis, and you can get from census update, county data, and state data. What kind of demographics, and specifically what in your area, okay, how that population look like. And so this population is one of your stakeholders, and they are going to inform you. Okay, they are part of the planning. So you need to say their input is in your proposal. Okay, how they are going to be involved in all phases, not just the proposal phase, planning, evaluation, and how so create a feedback loop. Okay, how their information is going to feedback to your project. And you want to talk about your community and partners. What other organizations are in providing services, and who they are, and how they can be part of your effort in solving this problem. Okay. So you want to identify here, just like in that letter proposal, there's a problem statement. Okay, the severity of the problem, whether it's chronic or acute. Okay, and who else are in providing services in solving this problem. Okay, and why what they are doing, the current approaches to this problem are not sufficient enough to, okay, so you need to rely on research to do the gap analysis, to say, now my proposal may come in to fill the gap. Okay, so this is to solve this problem, help solve the problem. Okay, then you have a purpose and description. That you describe the purpose of the funding, purpose of the funding statement. You describe the proposed solution. Okay, you provide a program design that can solve the problem that you just described. Then you provide goals and objectives to reach the goals. Okay, very similar. See here, you see the similar process. How you solve the problem, how do you set up goals, and what goals, how do you get there, and then strategy. Strategy is the meat of your proposal, is the program design, okay? How to exactly what kind of activities will occur in this project. And you want to do research to show that to solve this problem, there are best practices and in the research, and how you are going to integrate these best practices in your project, okay, activities. Okay, then you need to provide a timeline. Okay, at what time, what activities would happen. Okay, you can create a chart by which year and which quarter what activities is going to happen. Okay, then so people create a chart would be very helpful, and people like tables. Okay, chart and tables is very clear, concise way to show what time, what activities will be happening, and what result or benefit would happen. Okay, and the benefit and how who will benefit from this grant, and how a long-term effect, and so on and so forth. Okay, and so meaning that without this grant, this outcome is the benefit is not going to come. Okay, to basically highlight that what this money can do. Then you describe who are your personnel involved in your project. Okay, and evaluation. Evaluation is accountability. So you need to have an evaluation plan at what stage and how you're going to collect what kind of data to evaluate. Okay, so that you know that if you and when and if you reached your measurable goals. Okay, those and the whole evaluation process, and also how this evaluation result get back to the project. Okay. Then you have budget. Okay, you have the budget narrative and the budget sheet. So budget narrative is to explain and justify every line items in your budget. This is to explain to your funder why you need this line of budget. For example, if you say in the budget, I have a line of travel cost. Why? Why do you need to travel? Okay, you need to say why you need to travel, to where, to meet whom, and for what purpose, and associated with the project. Okay, and don't expect your issuers to read your mind. Then boilerplates, board of directors, or who they are, and support letters. Okay. Here is some nuts and bolts of writing grants. Here is, before you write, okay, now most time the RFPs are issued electronically. You download all the required forms, okay, and grant writing is not a lone wolf effort. It's a team effort. Okay, you have a team to write this grant. If your organization have a grant office, work with them and they would help you. And usually there's a staff organize this process. The staff would create a plan and a timeline. Okay, in this plan, it will say, basically divide the RFP requirement into groups. Okay, for attachment A to C, who is responsible and by what time? Okay, so who is responsible for what by what time? So there's a clear division of labor. Okay, there's create a checklist. Okay, so the staff A responsible for attachment A to C, and you, the grant writer, is an attachment D to F. Okay, take care of this chunk, and who is going to get a boilerplate ready, and so divide this, and set up a deadline. So accountability for every team member. Then you identify boilerplates, okay, and history, status, and mission of your organizations, and so on and so forth. And those should be prepared ahead of time. Okay, and again, do it exactly as what RFP asks for. Don't go fancy, okay? Don't say yours is not as good as mine, okay? They have their good in their mind. Write exactly as they ask for. And also, they would usually provide an evaluation guideline and a scoring system to say for which part which part carries how much weight. So you would see which part carries the most weight. Really pay attention. Usually that's the project. That's if you are the one to do the project, that's your part. Okay, to really write in a way that is clear and with a lot of headlines and modules. So your project, your writing should almost like visually guide them through this process. They can see step by step. Okay, the first activity is what? First activity is linked to the next activity 2. Activity 3 is linked, or logically linked to activity 2, and so on and so forth, and visually spell it out. And remember, a grant application is a very tedious process. So attend to details and attend to the requirement, follow a requirement exactly. And so remember the checklist that everybody has a deadline. You have a final deadline ahead of your submission deadline. Okay, so and you want to have everybody ready at least 2-3 days before your final deadline, so that the project manager for this grant can put it together and double check if we meet all the requirements, and then submit according to the grant issuer's instruction. Okay, they have and submit that. Some grants and smaller grants, they can say just submit online, okay, and even submit online, they may it would be different when you write. In your writing you may have a table, but online submission they may not allow a table. So you have to really look at the submission instruction to organize your writing format. Okay, some of the bigger applications, they require paper submission, and they will say how many. Some may provide a page limit. Don't go beyond that page limit. And how many copies needs to be prepared, and how to submit, and so do what they ask basically. Okay, now budget. We have a direct and indirect cost. Direct cost is the cost specifically and for this particular project, and specifically and easily identified with this particular project. For example, the personnel's salary and benefit. And you may use your existing personnel in your organization. They carry their salary and the benefit. How much a percentage of their work will be in this project? So that percentage of their percentage of the salary and the benefit should be identified for this project. If you need to buy equipment, that's direct cost. If you need to buy materials and supplies or travel and advertising, if you set up specific telephone line for this project, that is, okay, direct cost. Indirect cost, maybe, so facility and administration costs. You may use their building. You may use the copy machine. You're not going to buy a new copy machine. Okay, those are the overhead costs and that you should pay to your organization to use. So you may use your staff to help you somehow, and they are going to it may not be directly related to your project, but they help you. So those are the overhead. So your different organizations would have set up certain percentages for. So for some organizations, they will say, for whatever grant, 15% is indirect cost. So they give you a 15% haircut and from top. Okay, the rest is your money to spend on your project. So you need to include all that. And some grant issuers will have may have a indirect cost calculator. Okay, and they may even put a limit. And the indirect cost cannot go beyond whatever percentage. Okay, when you the budget, you have to, especially the direct cost, it has to reflect the requirement of the grant program, and you have to also consider you're competing with other people. So you want to demonstrate that you can do more with the same amount of money. Okay, and you also should consider in-kind contribution. Okay, in-kind contribution, you can say our organization will provide whatever something else on top as our organization in-kind contribution. And I would collaborate with our community partners, and they would do XYZ for this project without cost, and that is in-kind contribution. So the grant issuers like to see how everybody pitch in to have in-kind contribution. Okay, and so well documented, well justified. So if like travel example, okay, and why you need to travel and how often, how much, and you have to justify that. Okay. Then after you submit, so the evaluation. So on the grant issuer's part, they are going to evaluate. Okay, they have to have at least peer review, have to have at least 3 people without conflict of interest, and they have to sign the no conflict of interest agreement. And the initial screening is just to see is your application package complete, and does it meet all the requirement? And they are not, the initial screening is just, do you, the applicant, meet the requirement? Is your application submitted on time and have all the attachments, and they don't look into the quality? Okay, then there's a program evaluation. This is a peer review process, and they have a specialized people to peer review. They have knowledge and qualification to review it, and they are going to score according to the scoring system. Okay, and then they are going to review the finance. And another thing is finance. Okay, and again, read their when you organize your budget, and read their requirement. They are going to say, no, our money would pay for what and not to pay for what. So be clear, follow, only put in the lines that they allow. And in one project, I made a mistake, and I knew for my specific project, I need to buy gift card to give to the some people contribute to our project, but the budget says the RFP says this money cannot buy gift card. Okay, but gift card makes a whole, because from past experience, I was writing the proposal for a similar project. In the past, this gift card worked well. So I took a risk and I said, I'm going to put a gift card online in it. And they evaluated, they approved everything and took out the gift card line. Okay, so I would get less. So I was lucky they approved, but I lost a certain amount of money. But they allowed me to revise my budget, and I so took that out. But not all the issuers would allow you to do that. Okay. So tip number 3, and read winning proposals. They're usually, especially government grants, they publish, because it's public money, public information. They publish those winning proposals. They read them, see how in the past, what kind of proposals written in what way, what kind of activities were funded. So that gives you some idea. And try to be a grant reviewer first. Okay, that would give you access to the proposals, and then you get some inside information how this thing works. Okay, and after the evaluation is done, they make an announcement. Okay, they usually make first they announce intent to award. This is just to announce to the community, we plan to issue this grant to organizations and ABC. And then there is a public comment area. If this is a time, is allow you to contest. If you wrote a proposal, you didn't get it, and you think it is unfair, you can protest. Okay. Then actually in one grant, it's not after the proposal, it's before the proposal. That when they announce the budget, say we got this money, we're going to issue this grant to whatever, and that's from our county. They say we're going to, after need analysis, they say we are going to grant this money to social worker programs. And I read that need analysis, and I read that, and I protested. And I said, your funding intention is not consistent with your need analysis. Your need analysis shows that there is a bigger shortage of MFT in your workforce, and you are funding social work programs, and they changed it. So again, this is public money. We, the public, can comment on that. So after that period of time, then they are going to make the official award. Okay. So this is time you sign if you get awarded, you sign a contract, and once you accept that, then you're legally obliged. You're obligated to, you have to carry out the project as you wrote in the grant. That's a contract. Okay, after that, after that is after that you implement your grant and follow your grant proposal, and then you do evaluation, you write a report. The grant proposal should say and at what interval you're going to do evaluation, submit a report, and that's, again, the requirement is in RFP. You've just followed that. And then you may want to have bigger grants, and you also have an auditing process and have an external auditor. And after the project is done, you submit your final financial and a program report, and then you wait. It does not mean that you submitted the report, you're done. And the grant issuer would give you grant issuer would read the report and then approve, then inform you that this is completed, and then only then you're done. And after you're done, you retain all your record for at least 3 years. Just because the grant issuer may come back to audit you again. So keep all the documentation for at least 3 years. So that is the proposal, right? How to write the process. And in writing public mental health organizations, usually there is a specific grant writer. You may not be the grant writer, but you play different roles. And agencies often have grant writing is a big part of in agency work. So you need to know what role you play. Sometimes your role is just submit information, okay? And then you may be part of the project and collect data, provide services, and so know your role, know your effort, okay? This is a team effort. That I hope I'm within the time requirement. If there's any questions, you can submit maybe by email, okay? That would be my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Dr. Wang. I also want to thank our sponsors for this series, CPH and Associates. As a reminder, if you are completing this session for CE credit, please follow the instructions in the email you were sent. Our next session in the series features Do-hee Kim Appel and Jonathan Appel speaking on historical trauma theory, and you can save your seat at aamft.org/at-home. I hope to see you there.